Okay, picture this scenario. It's something we've all seen, whether you own a bird, you've visited a friend with one, or you've just, walked past the avian section of a pet store.
Hmm.
You see a parrot, maybe a big, majestic green one, or a little cockatiel with that bright yellow crest, and it's sitting on its perch, holding a sunflower seed in its foot.
Right.
It brings it up to that powerful beak, crack, the shell falls away, and it just happily munches on the kernel inside.
Yeah, that's the classic picture, isn't it? It looks happy. It looks perfectly content.
Exactly. It looks entirely natural. It feels like we're watching a biological instinct at work. But, and this is the hard pivot we're making right at the start of today's deep dive, what if that natural instinct is completely wrong?
Uh-oh.
What if that specific behavior, which looks so healthy and instinctive, is actually slowly killing them?
And that is the uncomfortable and, honestly, quite alarming question we're tackling today. We're looking at a study from 2023 by Saldanha and his colleagues that really shakes the foundation of how we feed captive birds.
And the study isn't just about food preferences. It attacks a concept called nutritional wisdom, which is a term I love, by the way.
It does sound impressive.
It sounds like a superpower you'd unlock in a video game.
It really does. And the definition is pretty intuitive. Nutritional wisdom is the theory that if you present an animal with the buffet, some healthy stuff, some junk food, some minerals, they will instinctively know how to balance their own diet.
So the idea is that the animal's body just knows what it's missing. Like, oh, I'm feeling a bit low on calcium today, so I'll eat this boring pellet, versus I'm hungry for fat, so I'll eat this seed.
Precisely. The assumption has always been that wild animals survive by making these correct choices. Evolution has hardwired them to survive. But this study asks a very specific question.
Which is?
Does that wisdom hold up when you take that animal out of the rainforest, put it in a cage, and give it a bowl full of options? Or do they just binge on the bird equivalent of fast food?
To answer that, Saldanha and his team didn't just, watch a couple birds in a backyard. This was a highly controlled experiment.
Oh, yeah. Involving 63 birds across 3 very specific species.
And the results reveal what the researchers call a fatal attraction.
It's a good term for it.
It exposes a massive, dangerous gap between what these birds want to eat and what they actually need to eat to survive.
Before we get to the results, I think we need to set the stage with the subjects. Because size matters here, right? They didn't just pick one type of bird and call it a day.
Right.
No, they needed a cross-section to see if this behavior was, universal across different sizes of psittacines. That's the parrot family. So on the larger end, they used rose-ringed parakeets.
The bright green, long-tailed ones you see a lot.
Exactly those. They average about 131 grams.
Okay, so that's our heavyweight in this study.
Then for the middleweight, they used cockatiels. These are probably the most common pet bird after budgies, averaging about 98 grams.
And the lightweight class.
Lovebirds, specifically the Agapornis species. Tiny, high energy, averaging only about 49 grams.
So we have a good range, large, medium, and small. Now, explain this cafeteria setup. I assume they didn't literally give them a lunch tray with partitions.
Conceptually, they kind of did. They established 3 different dietary treatments or menus to test the birds' choices. Think of it as manipulating the options at a buffet to see how they react.
Okay, so walk me through menu number 1.
This was the all-you-can-eat option, technically labeled the EFSS diet. It included extruded feed,
which is just the scientific term for pellets, right? The healthy stuff.
Yeah, the nutritionally complete stuff, plus canary grass seeds, millet seeds, and sunflower seeds.
So diet 1 is everything. The healthy pellets mixed in with all the tasty seeds, the full spread?
Correct. Then they had diet 2, labeled EFS. This was the no sunflower buffet.
So same as the first one, but they just took the sunflowers away.
Exactly. They wanted to see what happens when the absolute favorite item is off the table.
And diet 3?
Diet 3 was the health food only plate, labeled EF, just the extruded feed pellets, nothing else.
No seeds at all.
Not a single one.
I see the logic, see what they pick with total freedom, what they pick when their favorite junk food is gone, and then, how they do when they have no choice but to eat healthy.
Precisely. But I want to pause on the methodology here because it's something that sets this study apart. You know how messy birds are?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They throw food, they crack shells, they leave debris everywhere. It's a nightmare to clean up.
It's also a nightmare to measure scientifically. In older studies, researchers might just weigh the food bowl at the start and end of the day.
That's flawed.
Very flawed, because a bowl full of empty seed husks weighs something, but it offers 0 nutrition. The bird didn't eat the husk.
So how did Saldanha's team get around that?
Dedication. I mean, extreme dedication.
Good.
They manually separated the husks from the kernels for every single feeding to calculate the exact gram intake of what was actually swallowed.
Wait, they peel the leftovers.
Even before that, they established a husk-to-kernel ratio by manually peeling 100 grams of each seed type, just to understand the chemical composition of only the kernel.
Because the bird doesn't eat the shell.
And if you analyze the whole seed shell and all, you get the wrong nutritional data. You need to know the chemistry of the part that actually goes into the stomach.
I can't even imagine the hours spent peeling thousands of tiny millet seeds for science. That is rigor. That's a level of tediousness that demands respect.
It sounds tedious, but it's the only way to get the truth. Without that step, you don't really know the actual nutrient intake. You just know how much trash they generated.
So we can trust this data.
We can.
Okay, so hats off to the research assistants. Let's get into the behavior. The birds are presented with the buffet diet 1, which has everything. What happened?
Let's look at the rose-ringed parakeets first. When they were given the EFSS diet, the full buffet, they showed a massive, statistically significant preference for sunflower seeds.
They went straight for the good stuff.
Almost exclusively. They largely ignored the healthy pellets and the other seeds. It was a sunflower feast.
Okay, but that's relatable. You put a bowl of chocolate and a bowl of kale in front of me, I'm eating the chocolate. But here's the test of nutritional wisdom. What happened when they took the sunflower seeds away?
This is the critical moment. If the birds had nutritional wisdom, you'd expect them to say, okay, the high-fat treat is gone. I should probably eat these balanced pellets now.
Right. They should correct for the imbalance. I've had my fun. Now I need some actual sustenance.
But they didn't. This is what I call the millet pivot.
The millet pivot.
When the sunflower seeds were removed, the rose-ringed parakeets didn't switch to pellets. They switched to the next fattiest thing available, the millet. And for the cockatiels and lovebirds, they actually preferred millet from the start, even when sunflower was there. But the pattern is consistent across all three species.
And the pattern is avoid the pellets at all costs.
Exactly. Whenever seeds were available, the pellets were treated like rocks. The birds consistently chose seeds over the extruded feed.
So that pretty much answers the core question about nutritional wisdom.
It answers it with a resounding no. The study explicitly states that these citizens do not select food to promote health, they eat for pleasure.
Specifically for texture and fat content.
Yes.
It's like putting a 5-year-old at a buffet with pizza, ice cream, and steamed broccoli. We don't expect the 5-year-old to calculate their vitamin C needs.
That is the perfect analogy. The bird isn't thinking, I need vitamin A for my immune system. The bird is thinking, this fatty, crunchy thing gives me a dopamine hit. They prioritize palatability and high energy density over nutritional balance every single time.
Now, for a casual listener, they might be thinking, so what? Let them have the pizza. They're happy. They seem fine. But this is where the study gets dark, because they didn't just track what they ate.
No, they analyzed the chemistry of that choice. This is where we enter the fat trap. The researchers analyzed the chemical breakdown of the kernels, and sunflower seeds are lipid bombs.
We know they're fatty, but can you quantify that? How fatty are we talking?
Sunflower kernels are at least 12 times higher in fat than millet or canary grass.
12 times.
12 times.
That is a staggering difference. That's not a rounding error.
It's huge. So when the rose-ringed parakeets were on that sunflower diet, their total intake was 54.5% fat.
Over half their diet was pure fat.
Imagine if your daily diet was 55% butter. That's effectively what these birds were doing. And because fat is so energy dense, this leads to an energy overload. The study calculated the maintenance energy requirement, or MCAR.
Which is basically the calorie floor, how much energy a bird needs to just exist, right?
Right, to just breathe and keep its heart beating without gaining or losing weight. And the study found that birds on the seed diets, especially the sunflower group, consumed significantly more energy than their miroir.
They were just blowing past their calorie limits. And this is where the context of captivity becomes the killer. Because a wild bird might actually need those calories.
Exactly. A wild bird flies for miles. It forages, it escapes predators, it deals with weather. A wild parrot is an elite athlete. A captive parrot, the study notes they spend up to 90% of their time just sitting in a cage.
They're the desk workers of the bird world.
They are. So you have this high energy intake combined with extremely low activity. The source material is very clear on the consequences: obesity and lipid-related lesions.
Meaning their bodies have nowhere to put that energy, so they just store it as fat in the liver and arteries.
We're talking about fatty liver disease, atherosclerosis, serious life-shortening conditions.
Yes. But it's not just about what they're getting too much of. The seed diet is a double-edged sword. It's high in the bad stuff, but it's critically low in the good stuff.
Specifically, the calcium crisis.
I feel like calcium deficiency is something people hear but don't really grasp the severity of. How much calcium does a bird actually need?
A standard maintenance diet for a parrot needs to be between 0.35% and 0.85% calcium. That's the safe zone.
Okay, so roughly 0.5% to 1% of their intake. And what do seeds provide?
Less than 0.1%. Most grains, like millet and corn, are even lower, like less than 0.03%.
Wow. So it's not just a little low, it's practically non-existent.
It's trace amounts. The data showed that birds in the mixed seed groups had a total calcium intake lower than 0.3%. They were consistently failing to meet their basic biological needs.
And biology is all about ratios, isn't it? The study makes a big deal about the calcium to phosphorus ratio. Why is that specific balance so important?
This is critical for bone health. In the body, calcium and phosphorus are chemically linked. They work in opposition. You need a ratio between 1:1 and 2:1, so more calcium than phosphorus. That is the sweet spot.
And the seed-eating birds?
Their ratios were inverted, well below 1:1. They were getting way more phosphorus than calcium.
So break this down for us. What physically happens inside the bird when that ratio is flipped upside down?
The body panics. It needs calcium for the heart and muscles to work. It's non-negotiable for life. So if there isn't enough calcium coming in from the food, the body starts mining it from the only source it has.
The skeleton.
The skeleton. It dissolves its own bones to survive.
Oh, that's sin.
Yes.
Yeah.
This leads to conditions like nutritional secondary hyperparathyroidism. In young birds, it causes rickets. In adults, it causes osteomalacia, which literally means soft bones.
That sounds horrific. Soft bones.
It is. The source also mentions that these seed diets decrease reproductive performance and compromise the immune system. So you have a bird that is obese, probably has liver issues, has brittle or soft bones, and a weak immune system, all because it chose the tasty seed.
It's tragic because the owner thinks they're being nice. You hand them the seed, they look happy, they chirp, they do a little dance. You think, I love my bird, I'm giving him what he likes.
But actually, you're handing him a slow-motion health crisis. That's the paradox. We equate love with freedom of choice, but in this case, what they enjoy is biologically inappropriate for the life they lead.
So we've bashed the seeds pretty hard, and rightly so. Let's talk about the alternative. In the study, there was that third group, Diet EF, the birds who are forced to eat only the pellets. How did they fare?
On paper, they were the winners. The birds that ate only the extruded feed met all their protein requirements, which is around 16%.
Okay.
They met their minimum calcium requirements, sitting at about 1.2%. And most importantly, their calcium to phosphorus ratio was perfectly balanced.
So medically speaking, the pellets are the superfood. They solve every problem we just discussed.
They do. They provide exactly what the bird needs in a tidy little package, but there's a huge but here.
Palatability problem.
Right. The study showed clearly that birds avoided the extruded feed whenever seeds were present. If they had a choice, they just wouldn't touch the stuff.
So we have a situation where the healthy food is treated like cardboard by the consumer. This creates a massive practical challenge for the owner. You can't just explain the science to a parakeet.
No, you can't sit them down and show them a PowerPoint about liver failure. And this is where many owners fail. They try to mix the food. They think, I'll do a 50-50 mix. Half seeds, half pellets. That seems fair.
And based on this study, we know exactly what happens in that bowl.
The bird will dig through the bowl, toss the pellets on the floor, eat the seeds, and you're back to square one. You aren't feeding a balanced diet. You're feeding a seed diet with some expensive trash mixed in.
So what is the recommendation? Did the study offer a solution, or did they just leave us with seeds are bad, good luck?
Thankfully, they offer some really practical guidance. They recommend that formulated diets, the pellets, should make up about 75% of the total intake.
75%. So it doesn't have to be 100% pellets.
No. And that's important for enrichment. Eating dry pellets all day is boring, you know? Animals need variety for their mental health, but the seeds should be treated like candy.
High energy, palatable, but nutritionally empty in terms of minerals and vitamins.
Exactly. The bulk of the calories comes from the boring, healthy stuff, and the seeds are the sprinkle on top.
Or a reward.
Ideally, you use them for training. Make them work for it. Don't just put them in the bowl. If you use seeds as a reward for a trick or stepping up, you control the volume.
I think we need to circle back to the environment factor because it really underpins the whole why of this study. You mentioned earlier the difference between an Olympic athlete and a desk worker.
It's the single most important variable. In the wild, foraging is hard work. It requires flight, climbing, problem solving. A wild parrot burns a tremendous amount of energy just finding breakfast.
So if a wild parrot finds a patch of fatty sunflower seeds, that's a jackpot.
It's a jackpot. They burn that fuel off immediately, just living their lives. But the bird in the living room,
The bird in the living room climbs from the perch to the food bowl, maybe 6 inches, eats, and climbs back. That energy has nowhere to go.
the source explicitly points out that captive parrots do not have that luxury of high energy expenditure. That makes the seed diet dangerous specifically because of the context of captivity.
It's context dependent. High-octane fuel is only good if you're a high-performance machine. If you put race car fuel in a lawnmower that sits in the garage, you're going to gum up the engine.
That's a great way to put it. And this study really highlights that we can't just rely on the bird's instinct, because its instinct is calibrated for the rainforest, not the cage.
Their software hasn't been updated for their current hardware, so to speak.
Not at all.
So let's try to wrap this up for the listener who is maybe looking at their bird right now or looking at the bag of gourmet seed mix in their pantry. What is the big takeaway from this deep dive?
The core takeaway is that natural cravings do not equal healthy choices in a captive environment. Whether it was the big parakeets living sunflower seeds or the smaller birds loving millet, the result was the same. Unchecked choice leads to malnutrition.
It effectively debunks the Disney idea that animals possess some mystical knowledge of what's best for them.
They know what tastes best. They don't know what creates long-term bone density or liver health. They're driven by short-term gratification, not long-term planning.
So the actionable advice here is, you have to be the bad guy.
You have to be the parent. The owner or the guardian must control the diet because the bird simply won't. It's about limiting the yummy stuff and ensuring the healthy stuff, the extruded feed, is actually consumed.
You have to verify intake, not just offer it.
That is a huge distinction. Offering healthy food isn't the same as them eating healthy food. If the pellets are still in the bowl at the end of the day, you haven't fed your bird properly.
You know, this brings up a really provocative thought to leave our listeners with. We control every single aspect of a captive animal's life. We decide when they sleep, where they live, who they interact with. And usually, we think giving them freedom of choice with their food is a kindness. It feels like the one area where we can let them be free.
It does. It feels like we're respecting their autonomy. We think, at least I let him pick his favorite snacks.
Right. But based on this study, if we assume they know what's best for them based on instinct alone, are we actually neglecting our duty of care? Is freedom of choice in diet actually a form of cruelty for a captive animal?
It's a heavy question. But if that freedom leads to soft bones, obesity, and heart disease, maybe the kindest thing we can do is take that choice away. True care might mean restricting their choices to ensure they live a long, pain-free life.
Something to think about next time you reach for that bag of sunflower seeds. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.